And a peddler used to travel around all the villages selling things because they didn't have any shops. And I'm a sort of peddler in real life when I'm not doing this because I actually do sell things, but I have got a shop. My shop is in Rochester in Kent. Rochester's got a big Norman castle, a medieval cathedral, and it has lots of visitors, and I hope they're going to come into my shop and buy something. And this is really made from the skin of a real wolf, and I'd like you to pop that over your shoulders if you would. And you're going to be wearing a leather coat called a jerkin to protect you from the sparks of the fire. This is your hood. It's called a snood. So if you just face the class, I'll pop it over your head. And this will go, hang on, let's put the hood up. There we go. And this is your baker's hat. So we're just going to pop that over your head. And just face the class, and this is your peasant's hat. That's great. And I'm going to give you an iron helmet to wear. Put over your head. So right at the back we've got our blacksmith. Then in front of the blacksmith we've got a baker. And then along this way we've got a beggar, we've got a peasant, we've got a soldier, and we've got a monk. Give them a big clap for standing up and not being embarrassed. Well done. You can see why it's called a longbow. And a good archer could shoot over 10 arrows a minute, one after the other, straight into the army of the enemy. This is the arrow you normally see. It's got a sharp metal point at the end, and that's called a bodkin, and it's a general purpose arrow. This is the scabbard, and the bit of metal at the end is called the chape. You all know what the blade is for, so I won't talk about that. You've got the cross piece to protect the hand, and the hilt, 2 pieces of wood, rivets going through, and the blade carries along the middle of the hilt, and that bit's called the tang. It would have been a very strong knight who owned this sword. He couldn't really carry it around with him, so he probably had it strapped to the side of his horse, and he would have dismounted to use it in battle. It's made of one piece of metal, and the guy who made it for me engraved his name in the tang, Alan Rossiter, and the date in which he made it, which was 1996. There's a spear on the table. You'd use this for hand-to-hand fighting. I don't think you throw it at your enemy though, because if you missed, you'd just given him a weapon that he could throw back at you. This very heavy one is called a mace, and these quillions would be razor sharp. I think is this one. It's the war hammer. You've got a hammer there, a spike at the top, and this piece will go straight through the top of somebody's helmet. And to prepare the wool, you'd cut a piece away from a sheepskin, and you'd put it in between these 2 spiky carders, and then you'd comb or tease the wool into fine pieces all ready for spinning. There's 2 saws. The carpenter's going to be using these for making things out of wood. The medieval doctor is going to use these too. This is the skin of an animal that used to roam around Britain. Sometimes it would attack people. Have a look at its face and its claws. Put up your hand if you know what animal it is. It is. It's a wild pig. Well done. A small harp or lyre, L-Y-R-E. And there's a horn made out of a horn. You wouldn't write it on paper though, because paper hadn't been invented. You might use vellum. It's a piece of animal skin. And I don't know if you've heard of the Magna Carta. That was written on vellum, and copies survive even up to today. There's some helmets you can try on, including one made of chainmail called a coif. There's a water bottle. Everybody needs to carry one of those around with them. Poor people would have used a wooden bowl and spoon. Rich people would have had metal, perhaps even real silver, and if you were very rich, you could afford glass. There's a drinking horn made out of a cow horn. A cow horn is hollow. If you don't finish a drink, and if you see it written down, you probably pick out most of the words. We know what it sounded like because of a historian, a poet called Geoffrey Chaucer. There's a pair of gauntlets. You can try those on when you come up to protect the hand when you're fighting. And a big bunch of keys. Perhaps the keys of the castle or the dungeon. There's some rings you could try on that rich people would have worn. Make sure you pop them back again. There's some pieces of straw tied together with string. It's a toothbrush for brushing your teeth. So they invented the game of cards. And they used to play much the same games as we play today. Notice there's no numbers on them. You had to count the hearts, diamonds, clubs and spades.